Hi, this video is on the NC final exam for English 3. Um, if you look on the board right behind me here, you should be able to find where and when your test is, unless it is said otherwise in your individual final exam schedule. The exam schedules will probably be passed out near to the end of next week. So for the English 3 test, it is 20% of your final grade, and the test is going to be on the computer, it's going to be on the laptop. So please make sure you come and have your laptop charged. You also probably want to come in a little bit earlier, like 15 minutes or so earlier, so you can make sure that your laptop is working well. And if you need to go get a loaner or something, you have the time to do that. One thing I recommend you do is also to restart your laptop, and that will give it some time to close down all of everything else and kind of like restart the memory and things like that. So on the English 3 test, you will find 3 to 4 reading passages, and they aren't passages that are going to be super fun. They're probably going to be American literature or American nonfiction texts. It can be a short story, it could be a poem, it can also be just informational text that's in social studies or in the sciences. This test is very similar to your English 2 EOC because, except for the fact that it is a little bit shorter. And when I say that it is timed, I mean it is actually timed. In the English 2 EOC, um, you guys got like an extra hour if you didn't finish on time. But that is not going to happen on the English 3 NC final exam. When the time is up, the time is up. So you really need to keep track of the time. There are going to be 50 questions total. 48 of those questions are going to be multiple choice. And similar to your English 2 EOC, there will be some constructed response items. This time you will get only 2. Constructed response items means that you have to answer in a paragraph. So how much time do you get? You get 2 hours. That gives you about a little bit less than 2.5 minutes for you to answer each question if we don't account for how long it takes you to read the really long and boring passages. So what you want to make sure you do is keep your eye on the time and move quickly. I recommend, of course, that you read the passages. I know that previously some teachers might recommend, or maybe in other subjects and things like that, they recommend that you look at the questions first. But for the NC final exam and the EOC in the English subject area, you really want to read the passages because a lot of the questions are going to be about main idea questions. And tone can change. What a story or an essay is talking about can change in the middle of it. So you really want to make sure you get the theme that you're supposed to get, or the main idea that you're supposed to get by the end of the passage, because really a lot of the questions will be about the main idea. It's just going to ask you kind of the same things, but in different ways. So for the English 3 test, you've got 12 to 17%. That's going to be on language, that's vocabulary, context clues, academic words. 35 to 40% testing you on informational reading, so looking for main idea, facts, rhetoric. And then 50 to 55% is on theme, figurative language, and elements of fiction. That is reading for literature. And then all of the constructed response questions that you get will be testing you on writing, which is to see how well you can make a topic sentence, gather evidence, and analyze. So next, we're going to talk about what it is that you can study. And a lot of people kind of panic because they're like, well, English is English. You get a passage, you don't know what it's going to be ahead of time. So what exactly can you study? Well, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people don't answer the questions correctly because they don't really know what the questions are asking, because they don't know some of the words that are in the questions. So you definitely want to beef up your academic vocabulary and also your ability to figure out what words mean based on the context clues. I've got some worksheets to help you with that, and it's going to be part of your final exam review module for you to complete some of those activities. In terms of reading for informational texts, you can figure out and try to go back through your notes and remember some of these things that we talked about, like rhetorical devices, which are the tools that authors use to make their arguments. That includes things like pathos, ethos, logos, anything that we really talked about when we talked about the argument essay or the rhetorical essay. So being able to find main ideas or claims or arguments within the informational texts, being able to find analogies and figure out what is being compared, exaggeration and understatement are some devices that might be used, the author's perspective, what the author's point of view is, what the author's claim is, examples that the author is using, statistics that the author is using, anecdotes, personal anecdotes or anecdotes, evidence-based anecdotes might also be some evidence that the author is using. That could be like their own personal stories or like a case study or something like that. Try to go back and remember some of those logical or those rhetorical appeals like pathos, ethos, and logos, and also look for all the things that we talked about in terms of fallacies and logical fallacies, like overgeneralization or false analogies. Another thing that you can take a look at is we had a whole activity where we tried to figure out the major and minor premise of syllogisms, try to remember some of that stuff so you have them to talk about in your constructed response. For reading for literature, we're talking about elements of fiction that you can study, being able to find plot, characterization, point of view, setting, theme, and tone in a short story. Also, any literary devices like metaphor, similes, personification, onomatopoeia, symbolism, those types of figures of speech, maybe irony, verbal irony, dramatic irony, situational irony, any foreshadowing, any allusion, and some of the poetic devices that I put on Canvas for you to go along with your poetry packets. All right, and then last, we are going to take a look at the constructed response. Like I said, the constructed response is a part of your English 3 exam. Now, I don't think that it is weighed more than some of the other items. So you should answer, of course, you should answer every single question. But if you're fretting about being able to do this and also trying to figure out time, then just try to answer as many as you can. At least write down like one sentence, and then you can always come back and finish it. At least be able to do the A part of this constructed response. So for this constructed response part of your exam, I came up with, or I found, this nice little mnemonic device to help you remember what you need to do for the constructed response. You are going to be typing it. So if you can remember ACES, then you're going to be able to remember what you need to do. First thing you need to do is to answer the question by restating the prompt. And that you should spend about one sentence, one very good sentence, using some of those sentence frames that we've talked about in the past to answer the question. Then you need to cite evidence from the text. Remember to use a signal phrase according to blah, blah, blah. That should be about 1 to 2 sentences. Um, Depending on how much evidence the prompt asks you for, sometimes they'll be like, find 2 evidence, find 1, something like that. You also want to explain your examples in detail. So talk about and really try to analyze some of the language and the evidence that you use. Try putting it in your own words, try to identify whatever devices are being used. And then if you have time, another sentence or so to sum it all up, or maybe answer the question using different words. Some helpful tips for this part. Don't use contractions. And these helpful tips are just to formalize your writing and make it very formal written language. Because one of the reasons why you shouldn't use contractions is because a lot of the time you all are confused about when it's a contraction and when it's a possessive. And then you use the apostrophe wrong. So cut out that problem by not using contractions. Instead of saying, well, couldn't, isn't, then you can just say will not, could not, is not. Then you won't have any problems with those apostrophes. Don't use first or second person point of view. Try to stick to that third person like we usually talked about for our more formal essays. Avoid an informal tone. Make sure you spell out because. Use the author, poet, playwright's name if it's given when you're writing your response. Use specific quotations from the text to support your example. That's really, really important. A lot of the times, a grader is going through a lot of these responses to grade. They're just flipping through. A lot of times they're just really looking for those quotation marks in a line from the text that has to do with the question. So make sure you really cite evidence directly from the text. Unless you're specifically asked to, don't mention how you thought the passage was great or evaluate the author. Just try to stick to what the task is at hand. And then reread your response to make sure that it makes sense. I do want you to sort of write down all of these notes. You will get an easy grade for it. Make sure you get a stamp from me. I'm not going to pick it up. I just want to stamp it to make sure you have it in your repertoire. All right, moving on to the next task that you have to do.